Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about imposter syndrome. Now, this is something that I have been struggling with for many, many years. With this YouTube channel or my blog or my career as a doctor, basically with everything that I've done, I've always had a sense of how am I the person to be doing this? Why am I the person to be doing this? Why are people taking me seriously? Like all of these thoughts associated around this idea that maybe I just kind of got lucky and I fluked into the position of being where I am. And oh my God, now there's attention on me and like, what the hell do I do with it? And I think over time, I've gotten better at dealing with this imposter syndrome. I still get it all the time. But in this video, I want to talk through 3 stories in my life where I really experienced imposter syndrome and lessons that I learned from it, which I've now taken forward and I'm trying to apply to my life today. The first one is fairly recent, and that was in November of last year when I was running my online course, the Part-Time YouTuber Academy. And initially this was supposed to be for like 5 or 10 people, where I was going to teach people kind of my systems and processes for being a part-time YouTuber. But in the first cohort, we ended up with around 350 people who were all paying like decent sums of money to hear me speak and teach them about how to be a YouTuber. Now, I had so much imposter syndrome going into this because like the feeling in my mind was, how am I the one to talk about this? I've only got 1-point-something million subscribers. Surely people should be listening to David Dobrik or Mr. Beast, who's got 50 million subscribers. Like, why am I the one that people are coming to for this sort of information? And I think a lot of it came because I thought that I had nothing really to teach, because all of the systems and stuff that I've built around my YouTube channel with my team, I just kind of got that off the internet and off other channels like Video Creators and Think Media and like listening to loads of podcasts. And I felt like there was nothing new or interesting, and it was all kind of just obvious stuff. It was all stuff that if you spent a long time doing YouTube, you would just, I felt, naturally pick up over time. But as I was giving the lessons over like a live Zoom calls to our cohort of a few hundred students at a time, like the chat was absolutely exploding with like people saying, oh my God, this is actually groundbreaking information. And this is something I always get when I think we all have this when we teach something or when we explain something. If we're teaching something, it's kind of obvious to us and we don't appreciate that what's obvious to us can be amazing to others. And I read this in a Derek Sivers blog post a few years ago, and I often return to it. It's this idea of the curse of knowledge. Like once we know something, we think it's no longer interesting, and we think surely it's obvious that everyone must know that thing. And so for me, we have all these systems around this YouTube channel, like batching and parallel processing and sort of systematically structuring stuff. And I wasn't born being able to do that kind of stuff. I just internalized it over 3.5 years of making YouTube videos and reading a ton of productivity books and business books and startup books and applying all these systems and stuff to my YouTube channel, which I kind of treat as a startup/business. And so in my head, it was like, all these things are obvious. Surely everyone knows them. Surely there's nothing new here. But actually, when I was explaining them, this was blowing people's minds. And so it was a real illustration that what's obvious to you can be amazing to others. And this is one of the main issues people have when it comes to starting a YouTube channel or starting a blog or starting a podcast or putting yourself out there in any way. It's that we don't feel like our own ideas are worth anything because they're our ideas and we've come across them somewhere and now they feel really obvious to us. And so that's one thing that I keep on trying to remind myself of anytime I get this imposter syndrome springing up, that what's obvious to me, what's obvious to us, can be amazing to others. Story number 2 happened a few years ago in 2017 when I was in my 5th year of medical school at Cambridge, and I was one of the 2 directors of the hospital pantomime. Now, every year, the medical school puts on a pantomime, which involves about 100 people, musicians and cast members and singers, and like set designers and artists coming together to make this like comedy production. Now, I had absolutely no experience of doing any of this sort of acting, theater type stuff. It's just an area of life that I'd basically never ever done before. And Will, who was the other director, had loads of experience about this. Like he'd been doing theater for like a decade at this point, and he was really good at acting and really good at singing and knew what being a director actually meant. And he messaged me on Facebook one day being like, hey, this is gonna sound random, but do you wanna be the director alongside me? And I was like, sure, this sounds like it would be fun. But then getting into the rehearsals and actually starting to do it, I really had a massive sense of imposter syndrome because there was me with like 0 experience alongside this guy who had like 10+ years of experience, and he was fantastic. And I thought I had no idea what I was doing. And I would feel really self-conscious during the warm-up exercises. Like, we'd get people to do silly things and to sort of warm up and be like, "Uk, alea," and then like do like a weird like pose and run around and, just warming up the actors and the singers. And, it was down to the directors to lead the warm-ups. And I remember I was doing this in my head thinking, oh my God, like no one's gonna follow me. Like they all know that I'm a fraud. But I was doing the thing and people were following the warm-up, and it was like a magical feeling, because I was like, what the hell? Like, surely everyone knows that I'm a complete fraud compared to Will, who's an absolute legend. Surely everyone knows I'm a fraud. Like, why the hell are they following me? And then even when it came to, for example, giving the actors feedback on their lines or tweaking things, or even, you know, giving some feedback to the singers, every time I would say it, and you know, my heart would be thudding, because I'd be like, oh, why is anyone going to listen to me? They all know that I have zero experience in this kind of thing. But the weird thing is, no one knew that I had zero experience in this sort of thing. Like, this is a perfect illustration of the spotlight effect, which is this kind of psychological phenomenon where we all walk around life thinking that there is a spotlight trained on us and that other people are looking at us and judging us, and like, you know, any faux pas, any mistake that we make, other people are going to see and they're going to judge. And after a few weeks of having this anxiety about leading warm-ups or about giving people feedback, I realized that actually everyone is just worried about themselves. Like, the cast are worried that they're going to mess up their own lines. The singers are worried that they're not good enough. The chorus are worried they haven't got the dance moves. The dance troupe are trying to get the dance moves properly. Like, everyone was super concerned about their own performance and actively wanted feedback to be the best that they could. And no one was thinking about me. Like, it wasn't about me. It was about kind of the production as a whole and trying to get the best out of everyone. And I realized that I was falling victim to the spotlight effect, thinking, oh my God, these people are judging me. But really they weren't. They were just concerned about themselves. And so what I found helpful there was to try and get out of my own head, try and appreciate that, look, mate, no one is judging you. Everyone is just, you know, worried about their own performance. So you do your job and they'll do theirs. And in a way, dissociating myself and my sort of my sense of self from the role meant that I could step into the role of being the director. And this is something that we have to do as doctors as well. Like, often if you're, let's say you're a very junior doctor and you're maybe 1 week into working, and, you know, patients are treating you as if you are the doctor. And inside, you know, I would always feel like, but, you know, I graduated from med school like last week. I know absolutely nothing. But in that position, you have to step into the role of the doctor. The patient isn't thinking about you or judging you as an individual. They're thinking about themselves and they want you to do your job as the doctor. And I would always have to remind myself of this, that, you know, no one knows that I'm just a week out of med school and I know what I'm doing, more or less, and I can ask for help when I don't know what I'm doing. Therefore, this isn't about me. Keeping the spotlight effect into account. And I found that is another thing that's really helped me deal with imposter syndrome that I get around these sorts of scenarios. And so overcoming imposter syndrome is this constant challenge of separating ourselves from the role that we're playing and separating our feelings from what's actually going on, and recognizing that actually fundamentally no one cares about us. People are just worried about themselves, which I think is extremely liberating. And you know what else is liberating? Doing online courses over at Brilliant, who are very kindly sponsoring this video. If you haven't heard by now, Brilliant is a fantastic platform for online courses in maths, science, and computer science, and they're all interactive and engaging and fun, and they teach you the principles of these subjects in a very kind of first principled fashion, which is similar to the style of teaching at Oxford and Cambridge, where you have a small group of people, you learn a little bit about something, and then you get thrown into exercises that engage your mind and make you have fun, and you get feedback on it, and it's like a really fantastic way to learn. I've been using Brilliant for over a year now, and I've gone through lots of their courses on maths and computer science in particular. The one I'm taking right now is all about cryptocurrencies and about how cryptographic signatures work and how, you know, currencies like Bitcoin even exist. And if you're interested in learning how to code, they also have really good courses on Python, which is the world's most popular programming language. If any of that sounds up your street, then head over to brilliant.org/Ali, and the first 200 people to hit that link, which is also in the video description, will get 20% off the annual premium subscription. The final story from my life about overcoming imposter syndrome is something that I'm actually going through right now. And I'm feeling it very strongly with the book that I'm in the process of writing. So a few months ago, I got approached by an editor from Penguin, UK, who said, hey, are you interested in writing a book about productivity? And initially I was like, absolutely not, because I didn't think that I had anything useful to say about productivity. I feel like I've already said it in videos and I don't really have any original ideas. All I'm doing is, you know, parroting ideas that Tim Ferriss or David Allen in 4 Hour Workweek or in Getting Things Done. These other people have already come up with the ideas and all I'm doing is just, you know, making videos about them. And other than that, one of the things I'm still struggling with is, you know, this question of what's the point of productivity? Like, I've been chasing productivity and efficiency and passive income, financial independence for the last 8 years. And now that I've kind of hit that point, I've ticked that box where I don't need to work and sort of work is optional, and I've taken a break from medicine now. I've got this sense of what the hell am I doing with my life, and what's the point of continuing to try and be productive? To you know, do I just make more YouTube videos? Do I make more courses? Do I try and make more money? Like, what's the point of it all? And I realized that this is actually one of the angles I want to explore in the book. It's like, I think there are plenty of books out there, and I've done plenty of videos about how to get more done. But the thing that I actually want to know is, how do we figure out what we want to get done, and how do we figure out what's meaningful to us and what our purpose is, and, you know, all of that stuff that in the past I used to think was a bit woo-woo. And so I was talking to my writing coach about this, who's sort of helping me along with this process of writing the book. And I was saying that, like, why the hell would anyone listen to me as a 26-year-old, you know, random dude who makes videos on the internet about how to find what's meaningful and how to find what's purposeful and how to figure out what your values and vision are, and even, you know, how to be more productive. And the advice that my writing coach gave, which I think about basically every day, is that you don't have to be a guru, you can be a guide. Now, what's the difference between the two? So a guru is someone who comes down from the top of the mountain and says, look at me, I am the expert, I have all the answers. Whereas a guide is someone who is on the same journey as you. And a guide says, hey, I don't have the answers, but we're on the same path. Why don't we kind of approach it together, and I'll show you what I've discovered so far. And I found that that framing of it, like guide rather than guru, has really helped me overcome some of my imposter syndrome associated with writing the book. Because the way I'm approaching it, it's not that, look at me, I'm the expert about all things productivity, I'm the expert on how to figure out what to do with your life. It's more a case of, I don't really know what I'm doing with my life, but I've got the chance to write this book about productivity, and I've read lots of books about productivity, and so why don't we explore together, me and the reader, like what other people have written on the topic and what studies have been done about meaning and purpose, and, you know, how productivity fits into this idea of figuring out what to do with our lives and then figuring out how we can do it efficiently. And the more I think about it, the more I see this guru versus guide thing play out in other aspects of life as well. Like basically everyone in my part-time YouTuber Academy who's struggling with getting their YouTube channel off the ground or growing their YouTube channel suffers from this same imposter syndrome of, well, I'm not an expert about the thing, therefore I'm not allowed to teach people about the thing. But the key thing that I always have to remind myself of is that you don't need to be an expert. Like, I don't have to pretend to be a guru. I can just be a guide, and I can help people, you know, explore, you know, and go on the same journey that I've been going on. And actually recently I've been reading loads of scientific papers and stuff and books about meaning, values, vision, purpose. And it's all really interesting stuff. And it's all helping me kind of figure out what I want to do with my life. And that's the journey that I hopefully want to take the readers on as well. If you're interested in keeping up to date with my book writing journey, then I have a special email list where I send out updates like every few weeks and ask questions, and, you know, I'll send like drafts of chapters and stuff to that mailing list as well. So feel free to join it. That's linked in the video description. And if you've gotten to the end of this video, I would love it if you can leave a mask emoji. You know, that drama mask emoji? If you can put that mask emoji in the comments, because I'm always curious about who watches to the end of these long rambly videos. I'm always like, I always have imposter syndrome about this. It's like, why would anyone watch to the end of like a 20-minute video? Like, you know, surely no one wants to hear me talk for that long. And on the YouTube analytics, it shows that most people only watch like 30% of a video. So it's always nice seeing emojis in the comments where it's like, it feels like real people have actually watched through to the end. And if you want to leave a comment about anything that you've thought about in this video, or anything it's reminded you of, or any ways in which you've been overcoming imposter syndrome, that would be really nice to hear as well. And if, for example, you're thinking of starting a YouTube channel or starting a blog or putting yourself out there in some way, and imposter syndrome has been holding you back, you might like to check out this video, which is my 10 top tips for beginner YouTubers, which also applies to other creative things that you might want to get started. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.